Okay, so these are some helpful hints for the SOL. Particularly Algebra 2, as I'm going to go over a couple problems for Algebra 2. This could be used for Algebra 1 also. So anytime you see equivalent, most of the time you're going to be able to, or simplify an expression, you're going to be able to do this. You'll be able to just substitute any number you want. I usually choose, like, if there's an x, I'll say x is 3. If there's a y, I'll say y is 4. I just stay away from 0 and 1. You can choose 2 if you'd like, but for some reason I choose 3 and 4. It really doesn't matter the number as long as it's not 0 or 1, because when you multiply something times 0, it really changes the value of the whole problem. Same thing as 1. It really doesn't do a whole lot. I just stay away from those numbers. So 3 and 4, do the same for all the answers. Substitute those variables or numbers in for those variables, and you're going to see that the number that you get for the expression is going to be same exact number as one of the answers, and there's your answer. It's a good way to check your work. And for the equations, anytime you see an equation, you can split the equation into two expressions, put each expression into its own space in Desmos, so line 1, line 2, and then find the intersection. Sometimes you can actually just type the whole equation into Desmos, and you're looking for where's across the x-axis. That's the solution. So I'm going to go through a couple problems here, just so you can kind of get a visual what this all means. So the first one, you see the word equivalent here, and so we're trying to figure out what's equivalent to the square root of 20, x to the 16th, y to the 25th, and it's going to be one of these answer choices. Well, what you're going to do is I'm going to substitute x equals 3, y equals 4. I'm going to do that in Desmos. I'm going to do that exact same thing for all of these answer choices. It's going to take a while, but we're going to end up with the answer. So if we're looking here, the top, line number 1 is when I substitute 3 in and 4, I get 9.84754, all that times 10 to the 11th. It's a giant number, scientific notation. Line 2, 3, 4, and 5 are all of our answer choices. I substituted in 3 for x and 4 for y for each one. And when you look at the answers, one of them is going to match up with the very beginning. So line 1, the one that lines up with line 1 is line 4. So that's 2 times 3 to the 8th. So that's going to be 2 times 3 to the 8th, y to the 12th. So C is our answer. Here's another one. There's a lot of equivalent problems on the test. This one in particular I want to do. It's a rational problem. We haven't done these in class, but I'd like you to try this on Desmos. So first thing you notice is, where is the biggest division line? Biggest division line is right here in the middle. When you're working with Desmos, that has to be when you're going through there, that has to be where the division line is. So when we go to Desmos, I'm going to type this in. We have how you do division is you go divide again, and you see how the biggest division is on the bottom now, the biggest division line. If I click on the bottom and I hit a divide again, now the biggest division is right in the middle, and that's exactly where we need it. So the top is going to be 11 minus, and we have W. I'm going to substitute in 3 for W. And 30 times W, so 3 to the squared. And then, so the big thing was figure out how to get that division in the middle. And you can put parentheses around every 3 if you want. It's safer to do it that way. 3 to the 6th power. And I get negative 13.5. So now I'm going to look at each of the answers. I already have them plugged in because otherwise it would take a while. So we have number 8 is A, 9 is B, 10 is C, 11 is D. And it looks like it's A. So A is going to match up. So again, the biggest thing is make sure that division is in the middle. Quick how to do that again. Hit divide. We want to make sure that the division there is the middle of like that's going to be your longest division line. I hit divide again. Now I go down to the bottom and hit divide again, and that makes the biggest division bar in the middle. That's very important that you have a fraction divided by another fraction, that the biggest fraction's in the middle. You can do that, you can set it up, and you'll see that in this case, A is going to be your answer. We'll get to these at some point this year, just not now before the SOL. All right, next thing I want to look at, so this one here is I to the 75th. This says equivalent, but this is about the only time that I know that it's not going to work because I is not a variable. I is an imaginary number, so we can't just substitute in for that. So for this, it was, if you remember, I squared. How many I squared can you divide out of 75? And that's 37 of them. That's 74 though. Times one more is 75. I squared, let me do it right down below. I squared is -1. -1 to the 37th, you can do that in the calculator, but if it's to an odd number, it's always going to be -1 times I is -I. And there you go. All right, so that's how you do that. So that's about the only time equivalent's not going to work. Looking at, so here's another equivalent, another equivalent, another equivalent. Equation, you'd set the left side, you can just substitute this all into decimals, look for the x-intercept, or put left side into y1, or to first line, right side into y2. I'm going to do a different one here. That will be here. I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to put the left side here into line 1 of Desmos, and the right side into line 2. So Desmos, let's go down. So we should have y equals. I should also have that in there. We have y equals and y equals. What this does is it sets them. If y equals square root and y equals 8, then they got to be equal to each other. You look where they intersect. The x is what we're looking for. The x value is -1. There's your answer. Otherwise, you could do, instead of y, you can actually put the whole function in. So it'd be 8 equals, or sorry, I should probably do that on the other side, equals 8. And you're going to look for, the intersection. And here, unfortunately, you cannot click on it. It won't tell you, but you can see it crosses the x-axis at -1. At -1 here. So that's going to be your solution. So here we're going to look for a -1, and there you go. Or you can substitute all of those answer choices in for x, and you can also find the answer, one of the two. So there's a couple helpful hints for the SOL. Thanks for listening.